In this video, I'm going to be going over the beginner steps on how to use ChatGPT, which is most likely all you'll need if you came across this video. Maybe you've heard about it from a family member or a friend and you think, okay, I'm finally going to check that thing out. This video is for you. To start, if you're wondering what ChatGPT stands for, it stands for Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer, which I only know that because I looked it up to make this video. It does not matter. Just know it's a chat system that you can put inquiries in and it will answer you back. That's the gist of it. And it's specifically designed for language responses. So instead, think about how you would use Google. You would ask it a question or even just type in keywords and it will give you articles that it's found or web pages that it's found. And more often it can kind of give you an answer at the top of the page if you're familiar with using it. That's kind of a thing we've all gotten used to. But ChatGPT and language AIs like this will answer you. They will give you a response based on everything that you put in so that you don't have to go filter through all the information on a search engine. So it cuts out a lot of time and a lot of reading and a lot of just not hitting the mark with your search that you're trying to find. It's amazing. To start, how do you even get to ChatGPT? Well, let's start there. I'm going to just hop into Google because that's probably what you're familiar with. And I'm going to search ChatGPT. And it's going to be the first link. You'll know it's correct if it's chat.openai.com. And OpenAI is the company who created ChatGPT. But again, it doesn't really matter for somebody like you. You probably don't care about that. So when you open it, it'll look something like this. There's also a mobile phone app. So if you have an iPhone or an Android, you can just download the app and use it on your phone too. You just create an account like you would anything else, like an email or a Facebook account, and you're off. You're good to go. Now, when you hop in here, you'll see some recommended kind of just example questions that it's kind of prompting you to show you what it can do. ChatGPT can do a lot of things. It can code websites for you. It can put things in bullet point lists and tables and graphs, and it can read and analyze data that you give it. It can do a lot of stuff that you'll probably never use it for. And it's only going to be smarter as it grows. So as they develop these things and as it learns more from its users and stuff like that, it will just get smarter and more accurate and be able to predict what you need more and more. So for something like this, if you're just wanting to test it out, you're like, okay, I don't even know what to do. Hop in here, click into the ChatGPT message box and just ask it anything you want, even if you don't care. So I'm just gonna say, give me a cornbread recipe. And you don't have to spell everything correctly at all. If you have the phone app, a lot of the times there's a voice option and I just speak into it and I can be as muddy and all over the place as I want. It will understand me. You don't have to put punctuation in there, anything. And immediately you'll see it's spitting out a cornbread recipe for me. Not only the ingredients, but the instructions. So easy as that. What's really cool is it remembers what you've already talked to it about. So if I look at the ingredients and let's say 1 cup all-purpose flour, we've got a teaspoon of salt, 2 large eggs. Okay, let's say you don't use butter, or let's say you don't have any eggs. I'm gonna say, give me an alternative that doesn't use butter. Let's say you just don't have any butter. And you're like, all right, I need something else. Just do that. And it'll spit one out immediately for you. So instead, you can see that this one uses vegetable oil or melted coconut oil instead. And it gives me a 1/4 cup, which previously it was a 1/2 cup of unsalted melted butter. So it knows not only the substitution, but the proper quantity for that substitution. And this is like an easy question to ask it. It has no problem. It could give me this stuff all day long. You could ask it to give me the same recipe, but for 80 people to feed. Sweet. So it's going to automatically give me the quantities to feed 80 people, 80 servings of this. You can see it's 10 cups of all-purpose flour and all that. So that's just, instead of Googling that and trying to be like, okay, well, this person used this. Let me see what this person used. Like, this will just tell you, and it tells you the exact instructions. So that's a perfect example of something easy that's just based on a recipe. You can ask it, let's give it another question. I've never grown anything in my life in a garden, right? Let's say I wanted to learn how to grow carrots, okay? I've never gardened. You can tell it this. You can kind of prompt it things ahead of time, which is really interesting. So you can give it pretext. I've never gardened in my life and know nothing about it. Explain to me how to grow carrots starting today. You can give it any details you want, which is currently late November. So give it the time of year if it's specific and you think that it matters. I'm just going to give it that for now, and we'll see what it does. Starting carrots in late November might depend on your local climate. Carrots are typically planted in the spring. So I should have told it where I live. I live in Kansas. So it would know if I told it I lived in Kansas, what climate I'm kind of in. And look, it's going to give you step by step, all the way from preparing or choosing the right variety, preparing the soil, all the way down to harvesting. And what's cool is if you feel like something's missing, if you're like, I should have told it this, tell it that and say, redo the query or whatever you want to say. Like, give me the answer again, but factor in that this is my situation, and it'll do that. You can also just ask it to give you interesting facts on topics that you like, or, asking it jokes isn't really that funny. It's not going to replace any stand-up comedians anytime soon, but it can give you facts from all over the place. Another thing you can do is tell it to act as a person, which, let's say you have a podcast that you listen to or a TV show, and there's a certain personality on that TV show that really resonates with you, and you like the way that they speak, or a writer and you like the way that they write. You can tell it to act as that person. And as long as they're not, a local person in your community that ChatGPT would know nothing about, if they're famous enough, which if they have any sort of platform and you recognize who they are and you don't know them personally, chances are ChatGPT can know who they are. It can act as that person and give you advice, instruction, support, as if that person was the person telling you that. So one thing that you could do is, if you're like, man, I really want to work out or start stretching and I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start, but I don't want to start the journey of going through YouTube video after video and researching articles because they all say the same but different things, and it's just very complicated. I think a lot of us run into that. So if you really need things simplified, I like to use it for something like this. I'll say, I'm 30 years old and I want to know what 3 basic stretches I could do starting now that take less than 15 minutes to complete. And look, I'm spelling everything horribly. That will keep me mobile for the rest of my life and make getting older easier. So, one, it'll compliment you, but now it gave me the why and the how. And I've asked questions like this similar to test it out, and in the past it didn't give me this much detail. It just told me like the names and told me why. But now it tells you in text how to do them, and it didn't say, well, you should really do 5. It stayed within my confines of my question. It gave me 3 of the best, just common stretches that I could do regularly to make sure my longevity stays into old age. Now, tell me the same information, and you can do this first, but act as, what's an actor? I'm just gonna say Ben Affleck. It's the first person that came to mind, but act as Ben Affleck. Cool. So they'll kind of change the language as if they're that actor or that famous person. You could make it a president, like a pro athlete in history. You can make it somebody who's not alive anymore, that's just a famous personality from back in the day. Tell me as Shakespeare. And it will just, a lot of people like to play with it and tell it to act as a pirate before it gives it inquiries. And it'll just act as a pirate instead. That's like a common one people like to do. So you can tell it to act as somebody. This may not seem useful, but it is useful if you personally have somebody, like I said, that you resonate with, that you would be like, man, if I could get instruction from them, I feel like I'd understand it better. You can do that. Most likely the most useful thing you could use ChatGPT for is common things that I use it every day for, which is if I'm sending an email to a client that I have, or even to a friend, I can paste my email before I send it into ChatGPT and tell it to fix my grammar errors. I can tell it to make it sound smoother, make it funnier, make it more human sounding. I can tell it to increase the tone and make it less serious. Like if you're just not good at keeping bubbly in your text, if you're a very straightforward person and you know it's not really the best way you should be talking to a particular person, you can have ChatGPT fake that for you. If you don't know how to start an email and you're emailing a relative and bringing up a topic that's hard to talk about, you can tell ChatGPT that and be like, create a email intro that factors in that this person recently lost a family member. And my goal is to tell them that I feel sorry for them, but I'm just not really good. I'm not in the good headspace for that right now, but I want to make sure that I email them currently. So write one for me and factor in those things. It will do that. And then you can edit it from there. Or if you see a paragraph you don't like, be like, okay, in the second paragraph, can you fix this? Or can you remove the joke that's in there? And you can get as detailed as you want. And it's amazing how quickly it's like, it just wants to please you. So it's just trying to make sure it gives you what you give it, but please you in response, if that makes sense. So copy pasting emails in there and having it fix things that you're worried about, or maybe you just want it to sound cleaner and less jumbly, it can do that. And I do that before I send any email and before I make a Facebook post or before I do any of that stuff. It does that for me. You can even have it add emojis in there if you want. Like make sure to insert 3 emojis evenly throughout the email relating to animals or something. Like it'll just do that for you. So that's kind of the basics that you might use ChatGPT for as somebody who's never used it and you're just now diving into it. I will create more and more videos that go more and more into detail over ChatGPT and other AI softwares and platforms. This is just the beginning. So welcome. I hope you learned something. I hope that you can hit the subscribe button below this video so that you can follow along and maybe learn more from me in the future. And I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.